There is a special kind of confusion that hurts more than rejection itself. It's the moment you convince yourself that someone doesn't like you. Not because they said it, but because their behavior felt distant, inconsistent, or unclear. Silence becomes proof. Mixed signals become verdicts. And slowly, without realizing it, you sentence yourself to emotional withdrawal. But here's the truth most people never realize. Disinterest is loud. Hidden interest is quiet. When someone truly doesn't care, their actions are simple. They don't hesitate. They don't overthink. They don't pull back and lean in at the same time. They disappear without explanation. But when someone does care and is afraid, uncertain or emotionally guarded, their behavior becomes confusing. They want closeness yet fear exposure. They crave connection yet protect themselves with distance. This is where misunderstanding is born. You see delayed replies and assume indifference. You notice emotional restraint and interpret it as lack of attraction. You feel the inconsistency and blame yourself. But often, what you're witnessing isn't a lack of feeling, it's an internal conflict. People who are emotionally cautious don't move forward smoothly. They hesitate, they test, they retreat just when things feel real. Not because they don't like you, but because liking you means risking something they're not sure they can handle. And this is the painful paradox. The more someone feels, the more controlled they may appear. They watch their words. They limit their vulnerability. They avoid saying too much. They convince themselves that staying guarded is safer than being honest. So instead of warmth, you receive restraint. Instead of clarity, you get ambiguity. From the outside, it looks like disinterest. From the inside, it's fear wrestling with desire. Another reason people misread this situation is ego protection. When you start liking someone, your mind looks for certainty. You want reassurance. You want consistency. And when you don't get it, your ego fills in the gaps with the harshest explanation. They don't like me. It feels safer to believe that than to sit in uncertainty. Because uncertainty keeps hope alive, and hope feels dangerous. So you detach. You lower your expectations. You act indifferent to protect yourself. And tragically, this mutual self-protection creates distance where connection could have existed. Two people, both feeling something, both afraid to show it, quietly drifting apart. What makes this even more complicated is that some people express interest indirectly. They show care through concern, attention, or presence rather than words. They remember small details. They check in subtly. They stay nearby even when they don't engage deeply. But because it doesn't look like obvious attraction, it goes unnoticed. And then there are those who believe showing too much interest makes them vulnerable. They've learned, often through past wounds, that emotional exposure leads to loss. So they keep a controlled demeanor, calm, neutral, hard to read. You mistake that calm for coldness. But emotional depth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides behind discipline, restraint, and silence. The hardest part? You may never know unless one of you breaks the pattern. Because people who hide their feelings rarely confess first. They wait, they observe. They hope the other person will make it safe. And when that doesn't happen, they assume their feelings were never meant to be shared. So they move on quietly, carrying a story you never knew existed. This is why so many connections fail, not because of rejection, but because of misinterpretation. Not every distance is disinterest. Not every silence is indifference. Not every lack of expression means lack of feeling. Sometimes it means the feelings were real, but unspoken. And the most painful lesson of all is this. You don't always lose people because they didn't care. Sometimes you lose them because neither of you felt safe enough to show that you did. When someone likes you but doesn't know how or doesn't feel safe enough to express it, their behavior won't follow the obvious script you expect. There will be no dramatic confessions, no constant validation, no emotional flooding. Instead, their interest leaks out in small, almost invisible ways. And if you don't know what to look for, you'll mistake these signs for indifference. One of the clearest yet most misunderstood signs is controlled communication. They don't text endlessly, not because they don't want to, but because they're afraid of wanting too much. They reread messages before sending them. They delay replies so they don't seem eager. Ironically, this restraint is often a sign that your opinion matters more than you realize. People who don't care don't edit themselves. They don't worry about timing. They don't overthink their words. Another overlooked signal is inconsistent distance. They come close, then pull back. One day they're present, engaged, attentive. The next, they seem distant or emotionally unavailable. This push and pull isn't a game, it's an internal battle. Attraction pulls them forward. Fear pulls them back. And the result is behavior that feels confusing, even hurtful, when in reality it's conflicted. You may also notice heightened awareness around you. They remember details you forgot you shared. They notice changes in your mood, your tone, your energy. They ask questions that go slightly deeper than necessary, then retreat when the conversation becomes too intimate. This isn't casual interest. This is someone paying close attention while pretending not to. Another powerful sign is emotional mirroring without verbal confirmation. They match your energy. When you're calm, they're calm. When you're distant, they become distant too. They adapt themselves to you quietly. But because they don't verbally state their feelings, you assume there are none. In reality, they're reacting emotionally, just without giving you the reassurance you're waiting for. Sometimes their interest shows up as protective behavior. They worry about your well-being. They give advice. They check in when something is wrong. But they frame it as concern, not affection. To you, it may feel friendly. To them, it's the safest way to care without exposing their heart. There is also the sign of awkward restraint. When someone likes you deeply, they may become unusually composed around you, less playful, less spontaneous. They fear saying the wrong thing, so they say less. You read this as boredom or lack of chemistry, not realizing their silence is loaded with self-control. And then there's timing sensitivity. They reach out when you pull away. They notice when you become quieter. They reappear when they sense you slipping out of reach. This isn't coincidence. It's emotional awareness disguised as subtlety. The reason these signs are so often misread is because modern culture has taught us that interest must be loud, consistent, and unmistakable. But that's only true for people who are emotionally free. Those who carry fear, pride, or past wounds express desire differently. They don't chase. They don't confess easily. They don't risk rejection unless they feel certain. So instead, they show interest in fragments, small signals scattered between moments of distance. And if you're not looking closely, you'll miss them. This is where misunderstanding becomes loss. Because while you're waiting for clarity, they're waiting for safety. While you're interpreting silence as rejection, they're using silence as protection. Two different meanings, one painful outcome. At the core of hidden attraction is a quiet fear most people never admit out loud. If I show how much I care, I might lose control. Not lose the person, lose themselves. Their balance, their pride, their emotional safety. So instead of expressing what they feel, they contain it. People don't hide feelings because they're weak. They hide them because they learned, often the hard way, that openness once cost them something valuable. Rejection, abandonment, humiliation, or loving someone who didn't love them back. Those experiences leave marks and the mind adapts by choosing restraint over risk. When someone like this starts to like you, their instincts clash. One part of them wants closeness, conversation, presence, intimacy. Another part warns them to stay guarded, to observe, to slow down, to stay in control. This internal conflict produces the exact behavior you misinterpret. Distance mixed with attention, silence mixed with care. Another powerful reason people hide their feelings is fear of imbalance. They don't want to care more than you do. They don't want to be the one who feels exposed, while the other remains uncertain. So they wait for signs. They watch your behavior carefully, and until they feel safe that their feelings will be met, they keep them locked away. Ironically, this waiting often creates the very outcome they fear. Because while they're waiting for reassurance, you're waiting for honesty. There's also ego preservation at play. Admitting attraction means accepting vulnerability. It means handing someone the power to affect you. For people who value control or have been emotionally self-reliant for a long time, this feels threatening. They would rather be misunderstood than emotionally unprotected. So they choose composure over clarity. Another reason is timing confusion. Sometimes they like you, but they don't feel ready. Their life is unstable. Their emotions are unresolved. Or they believe they need to fix themselves before letting someone in. So they postpone expression, telling themselves they'll speak up later, when things are calmer, clearer, safer. But feelings don't wait, and neither do people. There is also the fear of ruining what already exists. They value your presence so much that they're afraid of changing the dynamic. They think, if I say something and it goes wrong, I lose everything. So they settle for proximity instead of progress, friendship instead of honesty, silence instead of risk. To you, it feels like disinterest. To them, it feels like preservation. The tragedy is that unexpressed feelings don't disappear. They turn into regret. They replay moments in their mind. They imagine conversations they never had. They wonder what would have happened if they had been braver, and often by the time they realize the cost of silence, the opportunity is gone. This is why so many connections end without conflict, without closure, without explanation, not because there was nothing there, but because neither person wanted to be the first to make it real. Understanding this doesn't mean you should wait endlessly or accept confusion, but it does mean this: not every distance is rejection, and not every silence is absence of feeling. Sometimes it's fear wearing the mask of indifference, and once you recognize that, you stop taking everything personally and start seeing emotional behavior for what it truly is: a reflection of inner struggle, not lack of care.